Alright, I've gone through a few videos to got triggered a little bit to talk about certain things. Universal basic income. First thing first. It's a great idea, by the way. Obviously, Stephen Molyneux always picks up a position of establishment and is like, or rather, he's actually on the left. I don't even know right now. Is he? Let's think about this, because he's standing in a position where whatever idea people propose, he says, like, it wouldn't work now. So what is your actual plan? Because one of the interesting examples that I wanted to give in the end of the video, turns out this is related. It's like if Satan gives you a candy because you asked for a candy, but the candy is poisonous and you get sick after eating it, it's like, well, you asked for a candy. Satan gave you candy. You can't really trust Satan, but he wants to give you everything that you want, except he's gonna, try and twist the reality. I think there is a movie about this. There's some comedy about this, but like, the interesting thing is, this is the conclusion of my video, which I'm going to reveal later. So what Stephen Molyneux does is try to like really carefully debunk the idea that, oh, you shouldn't just ask for a candy because a candy is not going to work. I tried that. You got to be really careful with Satan right now. And you got to ask for something very, very, very constructed. But let's break it down that universal basic income is the most important thing to get right now. You know why? Let's pick up this story. Why is 31-year-old who is supposed to... Wait. Okay, he lives with his parents at the moment. Let's see that. And a lot of people who come into the Dr. Phil show kind of have a similar issue. And this guy is fairly smart, right? At least his parents praise him as such. And I would agree with most of the patients that come in on the show. They have the capacity to think pretty well. They just don't have the resources and ability to think for themselves, most importantly. Right? The moment they are a little bit self-sufficient, they know how to live by themselves, they should do exactly that, because they're going to end up doing it regardless. My biggest problem with the way the system works is like, it's there is no transition. You don't actually leave your parents until you're 18, but then you immediately leave them. It's like, it's crazy. You cannot just do 100% transition all of a sudden, right? It's just terrifying. It is a terrible idea. And this is where the system really fails. The moment you're out of school, you're probably out of parents' home as well. You're going to college, or maybe you're lucky enough to start your own business at that point, or think towards the direction of starting a new business, something like that. That's even better, because you're ridiculously self-sufficient in this case. But sometimes you do trust authority or need authority because you're confused. Like, as I've stated in the last video, the confusion is rampant. Same goes with the candy principle. You ask, the Satan is always going to be like, oh, trying to confuse you. It's like, well, you asked for the candy, right? That's what you asked for. It's always going to try to confuse you. Try to put you in a position where you kind of just accept it for what it is. Like, whatever, fine, I'll take that, what you're giving to me, and I'm not gonna care too much for how bad it is. That's one thing, right? At some point you're gonna give up arguing against this super evil entity that will always sneak in some hard feelings, so to speak. Like, you'll have a hard time with this guy. And that's what the authority is to the entire structure of the left. The left proposes the ideas of diversity, and then the authorities create regulations and other bullshit that completely exploits that idea. It's not the left doing it, you have to understand that. It's not the left actually creating regulations. They're just talking about, well, ideas, and they don't know what to do about it necessarily. But yeah, it's the authorities' fault. We just can't really catch up, because like there's this person who's keep on asking for the candies. Like, you know what you're gonna get. You're gonna get the worst candy possible. I'm telling you that much. So, okay, let's go back. So universal basic income is so important because people like these wouldn't exist. They simply are self-sufficient to no longer fail to the point where they have to rely on their parents again. Because that is the most destructive thing ever. Relying on parents is the most destructive thing you can do to yourself. Simply because this is where you grow. This is the environment that you grow up at. And the best you can do is like reward your parents for giving you a proper care. For whatever success you get, it's a little bit of that has to go to the parents that allowed you to become who you are and allowed you to get to the success. So you kind of have to reward your parents, but at this point you should have left. You should have become self-sufficient and should have just taken whatever they can give you, and you shouldn't be able to get anything anymore. Instead, if you go back to your parents, you're probably gonna get stuck there. And stuck in a depression, first of all, because that is really depressing situation to begin with. When you go back and you're failed, and the only thing you can do is try and figure out how to be self-sufficient, but you couldn't do that. It's like, whoa, how the fuck do you get up from there? So I don't know. This is kind of the idea that I get from the video, is that if you fail, you can get stuck back to your parents, back to your environment that you grew up at. You try and find your way back up, but this is pretty low to go down. You should be able to go back up from a 0 instead of like a minus 20%, because you have no self-sufficiency in that position where you're with your parents. You're relying on them, which is ridiculous, right? What you should be able as a grown man to do is go back to 0, which is where you are still supported by the society, right? Society recognizes that you just failed, but you're not just a complete failure, a complete criminal that has to go to jail, right, for your failure. Because that's what has to happen. At some point, if people fail, they have to go to jail. They have no money, nothing. Like, where do they go? They shouldn't be homeless. They just go to jail and kind of pay back. Jail has to be a very organized way to pay back your debt, so to speak, to the society. You have no escape. You have nothing else to do than to pay back what's rightful to society, and then you go out of jail, depending on how hard you work. And the jail system doesn't even work that way. Forget about that shit. I'm being idealistic, but this is like the simple structure that has to happen. The simple moral stability is just completely vanished. And as we continue this road, embracing this concept of how things work right now, obviously, no people that are conscious of this actually like it, but we have no idea how to turn this around. But at the same time, the whole cycle is about to end. It's not going to be fun and games as it transitions into something completely different, but that's what's about to happen. What's about to happen, and it's weird for me to say it, I'm going to become ultra left. Not just left, the super most leftist person ever existed, I guess. How can that be even possible? And I would never actually lean towards political let's say direction. I don't even know what's happening with political stuff. I just know that there is yin and yang, and if there are two prominent sides that they keep on growing and creating more and more like a division type of tactic, that means we're playing with good and evil at this point. We're playing with what Peter Joderson, because it's fucking hard to actually say it otherwise, say it correctly, because maybe it's because of Peter Joseph. These guys sound alike. But okay, it's gonna be a meme, okay? I was just gonna call him Peter Joderson from this point. He talked about yin and yang, just a little bit of a mention. And it's like, well, it's a simple concept, but it happens in reality. We have the explored and the unknown, and the left is what is left. What is left for you to learn, and what is already learned should be a right that you can act upon, right? You keep your rights, you keep doing what is right, and then there's what is left, what is the unknown. It can also be right, but you don't know, right? You cannot actually act that. So those two dynamics are very important, and most important of all, now as we acting upon the rights that we have, they slowly get diminished. Because if we're not learning new things, new rights, we're not learning what is left, we're not gonna have a lot of left. This is kind of weird. Pun game that you can play at this point. You will not have a lot of rights if you don't keep what is right. But you won't have a lot of rights left if you don't keep looking for new things that are unexplored. That sort of pun. Anyways, so we have the unknown as the definition of left. I asked, what is the definition? And it's like, well, that's what it is, right? If these are the two most important dynamics in the world, and politics is that important, then let's define it as best as we can, give it as the broadest and most powerful definition ever, which is the dynamic of two forces of knowledge. The knowledge that you have and the knowledge that you don't have. Simple, right? Also very interesting, I've already established the system, right? So I know exactly how it works. The unexplored knowledge is what I call water and earth. And this will be the new era that is coming, the new timeline. It's going to be the combination of water and earth. Personalities, thinking, everything that encompasses these two things. It's about curiosity and identity. It's about learning the limits that you can get to by following authority, experiencing the world, whatever. Right? Being under parenting, but you're still trying to get to those limits of understanding how the world works. Right? Learning what consent even is, or you can be curious about anything at this point. You're born to be curious first. And then after you gather up and you actually establish your position in the world, you are born inside some kind of parents, some kind of family structure, right? So you have certain things going for you already. But when you are identifying yourself, when you're doing the earth type work, you are destroying a lot of that. You are shutting the parents down, shutting as many systems down that you depend upon, simply because you need to understand your own identity. You need to understand what you've learned, what you can do, what you like, everything. It's ridiculously difficult because you have to give up a lot of connections, so to speak. And these two things have to now come together, because simply we can do that. We're capable of doing these two things at once. At the same time, we could only do one thing at a time. That's my assumption of how things evolve. And I made this before. That explored is obviously the leftovers elements. They're active very much right now. Fire and wind. Wind is the most active element right now. Is the authority element. That most authority figures act the same way. If you really look into that, you're gonna find them act in a wind type of manner. But I'm gonna explore that a little later. That's at least what I find constantly. Yeah, there's plenty of experience. But when a person starts dominating, starts to really extract the value of the world, they're probably wind personalities, because they're the most rampant right now, and they know how to play this game of giving people candy that they benefit from giving, rather than the person who is asking for something. So that's very important. They play the role of Satan at this point, because they're giving the left the diversity. Oh yeah, we're gonna give you that. We're gonna give you college. What is that? We're gonna give you jobs first. We're gonna give jobs to the women that they don't want to get. First of all, we're gonna give that responsibility. Oh sure, you want to be equal? Oh yeah, not just raise children, but actually also work in certain positions. That would be nice. Okay, we can do that. What else can we do? Oh, you want more benefits? Yeah, okay. We're gonna give you all the benefits, and then we're gonna enslave your children. How about that? That feels like a good exchange. That's a wonderful exchange. Also, we're gonna build a wall. Is it Trump that's on the super right? Or what is his personality? Well, I don't know. You gotta pay me to find out, I guess. Because I'm pretty busy with what I got already. Anyways. So yeah, that's the ultimate weapon, is confusion. It's trying to give something nice. That's the biggest goal of the authority. You give a candy, like that's super nice, but it just kind of kills you. That's the confusion that authority feeds upon. It's like if you give up to the confusion, and if you stop, if you keep on being curious and you're asking for different things, but at the same time you have to invest a lot of value in being curious. At some point you have to say, well, geez, I can see a pattern here. I'm being fucking tricked. I'm being scammed. And that's what most people have to do. They have to convert themselves to Earth personalities if they have any of that in them, instead of perpetuating what authority wants. One of those things, it's seemingly scary, but this technology to change DNA or genetics, should you be scared of that? Not exactly. Just like in gaming, if you cheat through the game, you don't actually get the correct experience. If the game is properly balanced, of course. Sometimes it needs a few tweaks from a personal level, but most importantly, you cannot just cheat and expect to enjoy something. You cannot twist the experience and expect for things to work. The same way you cannot just twist genes and like, oh yeah, that's gonna work. You can give yourself a superpower, but you're also gonna get a super weakness. And it's always gonna be very easy to counter that weakness and figure out what the pattern is and how to destroy the person with that weakness. You can create more water personalities because you like to exploit them as an authority figure, but those water personalities, well, I guess there was a weakness because, oh yeah, first of all, water personalities are not replicable. They're not gonna have, they're not gonna create families, first of all. They just are not capable of doing that. So they will always be on a path of self-destruction. They will always have some kind of super weakness that authority just cannot help themselves. So in a way, authority will always find a way to destroy itself. We just have to embrace that. It's very simple. If they love this technology, we just have to understand it. And they will destroy themselves very easily. Another, maybe unrelated, the Tanacon thing. We'll see what happens next, huh? Shane Dawson. What happened was, it's a new project. It's very easy to scam a new project. It's a water personality. It's the same thing. I think Tanacon Go is a water personality too. Maybe Shane is fire, so he gets caught up into this. I have no idea. That's a suggestion, but I definitely see that immaturity in terms of, oh, we're gonna do this, we're gonna resist this Witcon bullshit that's going on, but they haven't even done a simple thing of predicting what's going to happen and informing fans that there's not going to be food, there's not going to be water, you got to take sunscreen, like whatever. And that would have made the difference, because if people gather up and share resources, share their stories, they can create whatever they want. But if they expect to become the consumers and expect things to work out when the project has never been realized before, that is really silly, right? To expect that. At the same time, it's like, well, it's happening at the same time as Witcon. It's just so many fishy and stupid things going on. It's like, now Shane is like trying to figure out who's to blame here, because I don't like to be the star of the show here. This is ridiculous, right? I just don't know how this relates, but again, it's a similar thing to where, yeah, Tana probably took the candy and it was poisonous. It was a scam. Congratulations. Now we have to figure out what the fuck to do. What is the pattern here? Haven't you learned already? Haven't you been curious enough to go to the next level? We'll see about that. See you guys in the hopefully apocalypse video, which I still cannot make. Now it's video 20, which I wanted to do future episodes. What the fuck is happening? Stop it, YouTube. Stop triggering me and making videos. I guess I should stop watching. Anyways, alright. Alright. Let's not make more videos, YouTube. I'm looking at you. Jesus Christ. Or not ban me from Discord again. I'm still salty about that shit. Because I'm absolutely right. Okay, I was just gonna mention this. The whole issue started with me is like, I was offended. I was attacked. I was called an AI person who just writes comments like an AI would. And that's as far as you can get by offending me, saying that I'm not creative enough. Holy shit. Are you kidding me? Okay. More on that later on, I guess.